The Peacemaker finale has the lowest audience score of any Peacemaker episode, but was it actually bad, or can we just not have nice things? So I'm going to explain the critiques of the episode and give you my take, and later be joined by Lee Mazzio and Colton Ogburn to answer the question, did this finale work? Welcome back, ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and big spoilers are ahead for the Peacemaker finale. So first, I'm going to assume that you saw this season of Peacemaker, or you don't care about spoilers. Now, the season was about Chris Smith, aka Peacemaker, trying to gain legitimacy in his own world before finally leaving for another dimension where his life seems perfect until he realizes that dimension is ruled by Nazis.
That's rough, buddy.
Fans also expected this Nazi dimension to be a bigger deal, but instead of the 11th Street Kids liberating this universe from the Third Reich, they just retreated. But on the way out, the good version of Chris's dad was killed, and his brother Keith almost bought it as well. So this convinces Chris that
I'm cursed.
And then he decides to separate himself from his friends. So the finale really tells three stories. One is the flashback between Chris and Harcourt, where we see them fall for each other on the boat. And even though this is not an elaborate action sequence, I think it's probably the best film scene of the season, with cameras ramping up speed and slowing down time and creating a truly magical, intimate moment between the two of them. Now, the world building part of the episode is about Argus looking for a habitable dimension to send metahumans. This is setting up an adaptation of the excellent comic book Salvation Run, and James Gunn did confirm that this is an important part of the DC Universe story that they're building. So while we didn't get Darkseid, we did get a planet that is run by one of Darkseid's minions. So Darkseid is
Confirmed.
Now, this sequence has all the action, particularly a brutal sequence where Cupid Doll is eaten by imps. But the heart of the episode is about the 11th Street Kids rallying around Chris and convincing him that he's a good person and he needs to stay. So a lot of fans didn't care for the finale, I think because they had different expectations of what we got. The finale of last season was about stopping an alien invasion, while this season finale is about the team forming a new startup agency. James Gunn also kind of hyped up the finale on social, so fans expected a huge DC cameo, but instead of Shazam, we got Foxy Shazam.
No complaint from me, that new theme song's a banger.
Same, theme is a bop. But as far as fan expectations go, maybe we here at ScreenCrush are partially to blame for that. Like all season long, we've been speculating about cameos and how the show seems to be setting up Darkseid. And I do think that the greater arc that's happening right now in the background is about Darkseid and Apocalypse and the New Gods, but this show was focused on telling a more strong, character-based story. I mean, think about the arc these characters have been on over 2 seasons. Chris is a completely different guy than the person we met in the Suicide Squad. Even Vigilante, a sociopath, changed for the better, finally using his cursed blood money to do some good. That kind of dynamic character change is unheard of in major franchises, where the studios usually want characters to stay the same so they can continue to tell the same story over and over again. Looking at you, Fast and Furious. I mean, think about it. How many Marvel TV shows offered characters that felt this human and changed so much? Not many. I mean, hell, most non-superhero TV shows also don't put this much focus on character and story instead of plot.
Or what's the difference?
Well, plot is like what happens to the characters. Literally, Chris goes to another dimension. But the story is more about why Chris goes into the other dimension. Plot is all about what's next, and story is about who we are. In other words, James Gunn chose to focus on character building first and world building second. Now, the first season featured character development on the backdrop of this big alien invasion story, while this season's big DCU plot was actually on the backdrop of a smaller, character-driven story. The plot of season 1 shaped who our characters became, but this season, it's more about who they choose to be. I mean, this is what Adebayo's monologue was all about.
Every time someone around you dies, it's because you're not listening to yourself.
In fact, Colton, who we're going to talk to in a second, had a great observation about the ending, saying that episode 7 felt like the finale and episode 8 was the epilogue. And that also reminded me of Game of Thrones. Typically, the huge event would happen in the penultimate episode of a season, and the finale would focus on the characters and the aftermath, while setting up the next season, or in Peacemaker's case, setting up the Salvation arc in the DCU. Also, in so many technical ways, I thought this season was a huge improvement over the first. Higher budget, better CGI, more complex cinematography, wider scope. James Gunn is also able to film dialogue scenes like they're action scenes. Like the interrogation room between Harcourt and Chris is so dynamic because the camera is a third person in the conversation that is constantly in motion. And I thought the acting was improved this season too. Like John Cena has done a lot more work since season 1, and it really shows.
Get off him! Get off him, please!
And Danielle Brooks deserves an Emmy just for her final pep talk to Chris.
You're big and you're stupid, but I know you love me.
And I don't know if I can say that about anybody else in this world.
But maybe this season isn't for everyone because it is so very, very James Gunn. I mean, this guy wears his heart on his sleeve with everything he does. He always finds a personal connection to his characters, which makes his stories feel more heartfelt. This, again, is incredibly rare in franchise filmmaking. In franchises, characters are often regarded as products, so studios will limit what filmmakers are able to do with their stories. For example, you can't kill Chewbacca.
A few moments later.
Chewie, he's on red ship. He's alive.
The studio usually exists to filter out personal vision so that it conforms with the corporate vision. So yes, James Gunn's stories are about outcasts, and they all have a similar sense of humor, and they may feature bands that you aren't into. Although in my case, I consider these shows mixtapes to introduce me to new music, thank you for that, James. But James Gunn's stories are also going to give you personal investment in each character. Like on the podcast, James Gunn broke down in tears talking about how Chris Smith was partially based on his dad.
I'm also crying because that's my dad. And that was the way I felt about him.
Now, I'm going to pick on some good movies here, but do you think, for example, that Matt Shackman's going to cry like that about Johnny Storm, or that Sean Levy's going to get tearful over Wolverine? James Gunn is giving us the kind of personal investment in franchises that really we haven't seen since George Lucas created Star Wars to spite his dad.
Harvest is when I need you the most. It's only one season more.
And I know that a lot of us are impatient about cameos. We thought Superman might show up, or Darkseid would give us a Thanos-type tease or something like that. But guys, you just gotta be patient. I mean, think about this like Marvel's Phase 1. People didn't walk out of Iron Man 2 and say, what, we only got to see Thor's hammer? And ask yourself, are cameos really that great? I mean, they're fun, but they're like a sugar rush. No nutrition in there, you know? Think of Multiverse of Madness. I think that movie works except for all the cameos, which for the most part are distracting from the movie's main point that Stephen Strange needs to learn to trust others. Instead of having a council of random characters, it probably should have been a council of Stephen Stranges to really highlight his own character growth. But now I'm joined by two of my favorite people in the world. We have straight from his comic book nerd cave, lead man Mazzio, and the guy who's trapped in our television but doesn't know it. So please don't tell him, Colton Ogburn. Guys, I know you might have slightly different opinions on this finale. Lee, I know you're just a huge James Gunn hater, so that's a lot. We're laughing because Lee is literally the biggest James Gunn fan I know. He's doxing him right now on his phone. What did you think of the finale, Lee?
I loved it. I feel like I'm 40-60 with it, and I keep going back and forth. I love what it set up. I think that the character moments were great. It felt a little early 2000s to have two live performances. I was getting flashbacks from the Smallville Remy 1 performance. Especially with Foxy Shazam.
Hey,
but
when you have the production budget to put out that bow, you might as well take advantage and get two acts on there.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I really liked everything that it set up, but again, I feel like everything that it set up was so, oh my god, Leo point at the Scream meme. I can't believe they said that. Yeah, right. And so I don't know how general audiences really feel with that, but that's what we're here for, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty good.
You know, Colton, you just did a video for us talking about what's next for Peacemaker, where we dive into the Salvation arc and how the Salvation, the monsters we see at the end are actually Desaad. Like in the comic book, they're run by Darkseid's minion Desaad. So of course we are setting up Darkseid is. So that's all really fun, what it set up in those last few seconds. But apart from that, what are your thoughts on the finale?
No notes in terms of the actual episode itself. I mean, James Gunn, he's gonna James Gunn. It was very well written. The dialogue was awesome. The character moments were great. So the episode itself, I have no problem with. It just did not, to me, feel like, I guess, the finale I was expecting. And I guess that's my fault for having a certain expectation.
Yeah,
but
like we talked about earlier, our own expectations color our perspectives for sure.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I just think that episode 7 serves as a much better end cap finale for the season. And episode 8 just kind of feels like and then I don't know. It just all felt kind of like there were key moments that had been set up throughout the season that they realized they didn't have a chance to put a bow on. So they did that. I love the scene in the motel room with the 11th Street kids. I think that was really well done, but I will say that it felt a little quick. And then they like just immediately cut to that music montage and like everything's better now.
And his lawyer apparently got him off and everything's all fine.
And to hear Gunn say that in the podcast, that was where it originally ended, like before, you know, they did the Salvation ending and all that. I'm glad that didn't happen, because I would have been a little upset with that.
Wait, I thought that he was saying that it ended when, like, after the montage. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, like
okay,
with Eagly flying in the sky and stuff.
Only thing I'll say though is if it would have ended at episode 7, maybe that's a season finale if you're doing a season 3, right? But there's no character catharsis there. It resolved the plot, like I talked about earlier, of being in Earth X. And I love that it didn't resolve the plot in the way we thought. They're going to liberate the camps. They're going to fuck up this universe. Of course they're not. They're the 11th Street kids. They can't keep their marriage together, let alone a whole planet. But I thought that if they would have ended there, it would have been really unsatisfying, because the true climax of the series was that hotel room scene. And just her kind of explaining to him, you know, you don't have to pretend to be this other great hero or strive to be a great hero, because you're a great person. And I thought that was kind of the natural climax of the whole series.
That's true. There was a lot of really important moments in the finale that, yes, you needed to have in a finale. I guess I'm just coming at it from a structural critique, but I feel really stupid saying that, because who am I to tell James Gunn how to structure making? I know nothing.
But art is subjective. You can watch anything and say, that didn't work for me or for that reason. Now, it's another thing to step in and say, gosh, if I had directed that finale, that would have really been something. And that, you know, But in terms of like where it sits in the DCU, you got to admit, it's a weird universe so far, because we've only seen things that he's done. So it's entirely his voice, you know? We started with Creature Commandos, kind of, or I guess the Suicide Squad. So Lee, in terms of setting all this stuff up and like where we're going, do you think it was effective for like the next step, or should Salvation have been like a subplot in Superman where it would have fit a lot more? You know,
I am a little concerned just with the setup for it, especially with Chris being the one it kind of all hinges on. And with Gunn saying that we're not getting another season of Peacemaker, of course we could get another season, and they call it Checkmate or whatever. But I do feel like there are a lot of loose ends to do with Salvation Run that I just don't, from what we know about the slate so far with Superman or Supergirl, Man of Tomorrow, Lanterns, there's only like a couple things that I feel like could fit in thematically with those projects and continue on the Salvation Run plot. Unless there's the Waller series comes in to fruition somehow within the year or so. I don't know. I just feel like there is a lot of heavy lifting that they're going to have to be doing for B plots in order to keep Salvation Run going. That I kind of wish that they focused more on it. Granted, Gunn said he's not going to go into all of the Lex and Joker plot, obviously, in Salvation Run. And it's
just so everybody knows, just so everybody can catch up here if you haven't read it. It's a great 7 or 8 issue comic series, 7 issue comic series where the same thing happens. Argus sends all these villains to this universe. They have to make their own society. Lex and Joker like basically butt heads. It becomes a civil war. They're all trying to get home. It's fantastic, and it leads into the Final Crisis crossover, which is, you know, dark side based. So sorry, Lee, keep going.
Yeah, no, you're good. And I just feel like that is not that it's the most important plot line, but there is just a lot of lifting that I think they're going to have to do, and I don't know what I would want them to forfeit to do that, or what I would want them to add. I just feel like, especially with Chris being the one that is, for lack of a DC term, the anchor being for there, I don't know, it feels strange, in my opinion.
Well, the cool thing about doing Salvation Run is they don't have to really address it for a while. They can just have, when a movie or a show is over and the villain's defeated, throw Clayface in there.
And I also do like
literally
that,
work in the background like S.H.I.E.L.D. did in Phase 1.
Yeah, and this time they didn't say it was villains going to Salvation, it's metahumans. So it doesn't necessarily have to be villains that go. I mean, they could send Hawkgirl there for killing the president, they could send Metamorpho,
That's true.
Yeah.
Guy Gardner just for being a massive D-bag. That would be really interesting.
Exactly.
And then you could see the heroes and villains face off. Like, it's interesting that he's working with Lex Luthor. And they had the whole, like, Lex is like, that black hole looks promising, because he might be thinking about it. But look, Lex, you're going there.
Yeah,
You know, there was this whole thing in that comic where Deadshot, Luthor, Catwoman, a couple other people helped to track down all these villains. And then at the end, they're like, okay, great, you too. And they like basically shoot them out of the airlock into the boom tube, you know? And Chris can be in the background. I mean, the whole time. Just think he'll reappear. If they're doing a Salvation Run movie, that would be cool. Only thing is, I really hope it's later, because it's that, like, I want to see the villains get built up. You know, if it was Joker and Lex, I would want to see Joker fight Batman first. If we can get that. I don't know. Colton, what about you? Are you excited for, like, where this now sits in the DCU, or do you think it's too much hinging on an HBO Max show that maybe a couple million people watched?
No, it's not too much hinging on it at all, because what Gunn is going to do, I think, in every project, even in every movie, I think he's going to make it to where you can watch that movie without having to have seen the previous thing. If you have seen the previous thing, if you did bother to watch the show, that's great. You might enjoy it even more. You'll notice little Easter eggs and stuff, or you can come here and we'll point them out if you didn't. But he's going to, nice plug, right? He's going to make sure that everybody can enjoy everything he's putting out. And I think that he has seen what has happened with Marvel when they had so much stuff that became required viewing and hit a point where everybody just said, I'm not even going to bother to watch that or go see that because I'm so behind. Gunn's not going to let that happen. As far as like the Salvation storyline, I think they're going very much the Infinity Saga route with it, in terms of it's going to be like microdosing. We don't need to like rush to Darkseid and have Darkseid appear in a movie in the next 2 years. No. I said in our What's Next video, wait till like 2035 before we have Darkseid arrive. Have like just this slow momentum, you know, burning in the background stuff happen. And eventually we get to Darkseid and you'll see the full picture come that point. And in terms of Chris, I also said this in the What's Next. I think the next time we see him is like a Suicide Squad sequel. I don't know if it's called Suicide Squad, but something like that. With
or
like
popping
the
up like he did in
Commandos.
Superman, right.
Yeah.
Right,
Well,
or
he's also,
a cameo.
You know, it's funny we keep talking about Chris like he's such a minor character. He's John Cena. I mean, he's one of the most
he's a
famous
movie
people on
star.
the planet. You know, so who in between seasons of Peacemaker became a much bigger movie star. I mean, Fast and Furious and all this other stuff. You know, he's such a big movie star. He had to apologize to the Chinese government for his movie to make money. I mean, that's a lot of clout that apparently he has, to where he's being forced into an international incident in real life and not in the show. Do you guys think? You know, our job's theories and stuff like that, and it's fun, and I'm delighted when my theories are wrong. Lee, you're the first person to point out to me, like, hey, there's something off in this universe. It's all whiteys in the background. And then it was pretty easy to call out Earth X from there, and we thought, the reason they're being so secretive in episode 6 is because of this reveal. What else are they hiding? Do you feel like there was more to do on Earth X? He doesn't even call it Earth X, by the way. James Gunn calls it Earth 2. So he does not give a shit about the multiverse or labeling the multiverse. He only wants the multiverse to serve as something for character. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you feel like we were cheated out of a better Earth X arc?
I don't want to say better, because again, I feel like the comic nerd in me is like, better is give me more. I just want more. I want to see all the happenings on Earth X, but I do feel like we finished what we needed for Chris's growth on Earth X. Although my only hang-up is with Keith, because they have that shot of him in the ambulance where he's still alive, and I feel like he's got to come back. That's just something that I think Gunn, alluded to or had said something on Threads.
He said in the podcast, at least, like, it's potential, like, supervillain origin story for him, which is cool.
Yeah, and that's cool, but I don't know. I would have loved to see G.I. Robot go loose in there, but that's just my own thing.
But
it's coming.
That might be the Avengers Endgame. You know how, like, Endgame delivered on these, like, activate instant kill and all these, like, little tiny moments? Maybe if it does evolve, if Final Crisis does involve multiple worlds, we do get to see that moment.
That would be sweet.
And honestly, all I really need is for G.I. Robot to enter that world. Like, maybe he enters in a lab, you know, like in Project Pegasus and the Avengers. Maybe he enters into a lab and they're around and he sees the flags and stuff and we just see him smile. Because
Yeah.
something about the look on that robot's face when his little metal face lights up with joy when he sees Nazis.
I just need to see him go in the door, shut it behind him, and that be it. I'll be satisfied.
Like that Kenny Rogers song, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, to answer that same question, I have a list. I have a list of things that I need to see, tied up from Earth X. I want Harcourt versus Nazi Harcourt. I want. James Gunn seems really in tune with like this type of thing, and I'm referring to Chris sleeping with somebody who thinks he's somebody else, and that's really f***ed up. And I know that he's big and he's dumb and he's stupid and he didn't think about it that way. Okay, but I still think it's a little tone deaf not to at least address it. I would think that Prime Harcourt would be mad that, hey, we're together now, but you've kind of already slept with me. That's like a really interesting story and like piece of their relationship that I want to see them like tackle. And it doesn't sit well with me.
I think they will. I think they'll skip right over that.
Well, and it also doesn't sit well with me that there are people in cages over in Earth X. I need GI Robot to go free them and say, have your uprising. And then he returns or something.
And we might get that. I mean, maybe if this arc ends with Argus, I don't know, who would be somebody in the DCU who, and there might be an example in the comics, who would be the good guy to run Argus? Sort of like when Captain America ran S.H.I.E.L.D. Who would we like to see put in charge there? Who would do things like send out GI Robot to liberate that world?
Sasha never gets to she does become the Black Queen in Checkmate, and I would say that Checkmate in the comics is kind of more what Argus is now, because it's kind of DC's S.H.I.E.L.D. So I would say I would hope that eventually Checkmate and Argus merge and Sasha Bordeaux can become the good leader of it. But I do feel like they are pseudo setting up Maxwell Lord for that, because he does become head of Checkmate in the comics, and Gunn said that he's not interested in doing villain Maxwell Lord. So I don't know. Yeah.
Well, no wonder it's his baby bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's playing him? Yeah, that makes sense.
I think King Shark.
I'd love to see King Shark come back, man. That's the thing too. Like, if you go into the Suicide Squad, there's characters that were left alive at the end of that, or maybe who are alive in this new version of the universe. So we could get Polka Dot Man back. I mean, Margot Robbie could come back for that movie. Yeah, I'm really excited about it in terms of what it sets up. It is interesting how the 11th Street kids became Checkmate, right? And so I'm kind of curious what you guys think about. You like this pattern for a cinematic universe where, I'll give you an example, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? I think you could have not seen that movie and for the most part understood Captain America Brave New World, except for Isaiah Bradley. But as far as Sam Wilson's arc, if you knew he struggled with taking the shield, great. And if you don't, it doesn't matter. He goes straight from Endgame to Brave New World, and that's when it's really done well. What are you guys looking forward to, or what project do you think we're going to see Checkmate appear in, where it's going to feel so much, it's going to be so much richer because we got to see them in this show? Do you think that's the way the cinematic universe is enriched here?
I think that Checkmate is going to show up in almost every DCU project. I think they're going to be the glue that kind of binds every single movie and show, and they already kind of set that up a little bit. Back before James Gunn took over, they were putting, I think it was Economos and Harcourt in like the post-credit scenes of Shazam and Black Adam. And I think they're still going to do that and have them be like the Nick Fury and Agent Coulson and these type of fun characters that we still really need to introduce to the movie audience. And I think they could be that glue that kind of serves as this consistent presence throughout every film and TV project.
Fair. I feel like I kind of have the opposite of that, where I would rather them be more in the background. But again, I think that's harder to go from TV to movie and have the audience tune into who they are. Because, I mean, just from comics, Checkmate is very much like a background spy organization. And I think that narratively they work best that way, rather than always being ahead of the story or having us know what they're doing. So I feel like I would like them much better if they were sort of a shadow organization for however many movies or TV shows, and then come back in. I guess that's a little retroactive, but I don't know. I think I kind of like them a little bit better in the background.
Well,
I mean,
they have
they have a storefront though. Like that was my
That
angle
is
from
true.
it. Like
Yeah.
and every comic book movie pretty much, and the MCU has just got exhausting with this. There's the agency, you know, with the special agents, the government people or whatever that, you know, give exposition and move you from scene to scene. And they have the big screen with the pointer telling you, oh, this is what's going to happen in the third act. If you're going to have that anyway, have it be Checkmate. Have it be this cast of characters who are funny and that the audience could grow to love. And like when they see them, be like, hey, it's those guys from that movie and that show. And it's fun. And if you haven't seen it, it's okay.
I think it's interesting to think they'll be like the anti-Argus. Like, I'm wondering, is Superman going to be working alongside Argus and Man of Tomorrow? Is Checkmate also going to be a presence in that that's like, hey, Argus is up to some shady shit. You can't trust Lex Luthor. I'm curious. I really don't know. Let me ask a final question for you guys. I think I already know both your answers, but devil's advocate here. You know, Creature Commandos, well received, not like it was a cultural milestone. This show has its ardent fans, you know, and it makes Foxy Shazam trend on the Billboard charts, but it's not like it's on HBO proper and it's not on network TV. It's not like it's seen by a ton of people. And Superman didn't, you know, make huge superhero box office. It did what, 600,000 or 600 million, I think. Do you guys think that this universe is just coming in at the tail end of superhero fatigue and it's got nowhere to go? Too little, too late? Or too much, too late?
I think I'm a gun glazer, so I'm never going to be able to be honest about this. But I don't know.
Laughing because he got kicked out of high school for gun glazing. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like if you have a dirty image in your mind, it's only because of you. Gun glazing is not a thing. It doesn't exist. Sorry, It's on a t-shirt now. Okay, go ahead.
And so my hope is that that's not the case. I do think that there were, just from general audience perspective, some people who thought Superman was Marvel, you know? And so I think that from that, there are people who are like, oh, it's a new Marvel, it's a new cape shit, I don't want to see it. But I don't know, I feel like maybe I'm just in a little comic book Twitter bubble, but I've only really seen positive things and excitement from the internet about like Creature Commandos, about if we're going to rope in the Penguin as well. Like there was an influx,
No, that's
of positivity thing, right? Surrounding new DC stuff. So I hope
how fast that narrative flips, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
the DC Marvel narrative among fans. I mean, we were ripping so hard. I remember tweeting when Ava DuVernay's New Gods movie didn't get off the ground. I remember tweeting like, and Marvel's about to turn the Eternals into a movie. Huh, make mine Marvel. And then look, I mean, lo and behold, you know. Colton, what about you? Do you think that that it, you know, all this is a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing, or do you think we have the start of a new multi-billion-dollar franchise here?
To quote John Campea, winning cures everything. So that's what we're seeing. Yeah, we ripped on DC forever, and Marvel, you know, we put on this, you know, high top of a mountain and we worshiped before them. But when they started putting out shit, people immediately flipped. And when DC started putting out really good stuff, people immediately flipped. I don't believe in superhero fatigue. I've never believed in multiversal fatigue. I think there's bad movie fatigue. And sure, some people might associate like, oh, the past few cape flicks I saw weren't that good. I'm not interested in seeing another one. That's fair. But when you put out good stuff, it's going to get good word of mouth and people are going to watch it. They're either going to watch it at home. Maybe that will be the case with Superman. More people will watch it at home, but they're damn sure going to go see Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's
still number one.
Did great on digital and on HBO,
I think we're in a renaissance. I really do think we are about to see a repeat of like those early days of the Infinity Saga with Phase 1 all the way up to, you know, Infinity War, that, you know, just it's a time in history that just feels so long ago in terms of covering this type of stuff. And I think we're about to see something similar again with this DCU.
Well, I really hope so. And I'm just going to throw this in there. I talked about this earlier, but I think the main reason it'll succeed, Marvel's reboot and what James Gunn is doing now, is if the suits keep their grubby little hands off everything. We keep seeing this where something will get successful and then people in power with the purse strings rely on that more and more and more. And so they try to stretch these studios and creatives thin. Just let him cook, baby. Hire good people to tell personal, character-driven stories that we all want to hear. I think everything's going to turn out just fine. But I want to know, what did you guys think of the Peacemaker finale? Was it great? Did it suck? Let us know in the comments. Or if we're doing this as a live chat, which I think we will, let us know in the live chat over to the side where I'm probably answering a lot of your questions right now. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Hash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.